Okay, folks, get ready for a real doozy of a deep dive this time.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're going deep on something I know we all have experience with. Bad advice.
Yeah.
That's right. You know, the kind that makes you laugh later on when you think about it, or cringe, or
Yeah.
maybe even send you on a detour in life you never saw coming.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And, we can laugh about it now.
Hey.
But sometimes bad advice
Oh, yeah.
can have real-world consequences.
Oh, absolutely. It can really impact people's lives.
Oh, it really can.
Yeah.
I'm still recovering from that time a friend told me to invest in.
Oh, no.
Well, we'll just call it a unique agricultural venture.
Okay.
Needless to say, I learned a very expensive lesson about trusting my gut
Yeah.
and maybe doing a little more research.
A little due diligence.
Yeah, a little due diligence. But it got me thinking,
Yeah.
why do we sometimes fall for bad advice?
Right.
And how can we get better at spotting it?
That's the question, isn't it?
It really is.
You know, it's fascinating to me because often giving bad advice really does stem from a genuine desire to help.
Right.
But as you found out, good intentions don't always equal good advice.
No, they don't.
Sometimes people just don't have the expertise.
Right.
Or they let their own biases creep in. Or sometimes they just plain don't think things through.
Yeah, so how do those biases, play into the advice we give and receive?
Well, think about confirmation bias.
Okay.
We tend to gravitate toward advice that kind of already aligns with our existing beliefs.
Right.
Even if it's not objectively great advice.
Yeah.
It's like we're seeking validation
Yeah.
more than like helpful guidance.
Absolutely. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because we're kind of filtering out anything that contradicts what we think already.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of our own biases.
Right.
And to actively seek out different perspectives, hear from different types of people.
Yeah, just get out of our own echo chamber a little bit. Now, you mentioned that you wished you'd done more research before jumping into that agricultural venture.
Yeah.
So how do we equip ourselves to identify bad advice, in the moment before we make a decision that we might regret later?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Because we're bombarded with advice all the time.
Yeah.
Solicited.
Yeah.
Unsolicited.
All the time.
Yeah, and that's where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
That's our superpower in this situation.
Okay.
We need to evaluate the source. Like, where is this advice coming from?
Right.
Do they have relevant experience?
Do you know what they're talking about?
Yeah, what might their motivations be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Could there be other alternative perspectives that we're not considering?
So it's not just about blindly trusting someone just because they sound confident or they seem well-meaning?
Exactly. And while there's no, magic formula,
Right.
there are some tools that we can use. Like, one that comes to mind is the CRIP test.
The CRE test?
Yes.
Test. What is that?
So it's a mnemonic device to help you evaluate information.
Okay.
It stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
Yeah. So basically, when you get advice, you got to ask yourself, is this current information?
Right.
Is it relevant to my situation? Okay.
Yeah.
Does this person have any authority on this topic?
Do they know what they're talking about?
Right. Is the information accurate? Is there evidence to support this?
Yeah.
And finally, what's the purpose of this advice? Is it to help me, or is there some other agenda going on?
That's a good point. I like that, the CRA test. I have to remember that one. I think we've all had moments where we've gotten advice that, looking back on it, totally fails the CRA test.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what's some of the most outlandish advice you've come across?
Oh, I've heard it all.
I bet you have.
Everything from, curing hiccups by standing on your head and drinking water backwards.
Oh, my gosh.
To, making major life decisions based on the alignment of the planet.
Oh, wow. That's a new one.
Yeah.
Speaking of outlandish,
Yeah.
one of our listeners actually wrote in about being told to quit their stable job and pursue their passion for underwater basket weaving.
Wow.
Despite having zero experience and a family to support.
Oh, my goodness.
Talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who's considering making such a drastic move based on such questionable advice?
Well, I think it's really important to weigh the risks and rewards,
Yeah.
While pursuing a passion is great.
Of course.
It shouldn't come at the cost of your well-being or your financial security.
Right.
So I would encourage that listener to maybe explore their passion gradually, as a side hustle or something, while maintaining their current job.
A good idea.
Yeah, so that way they can kind of test the waters.
Right.
without, putting themselves and their family in a tough spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a very practical approach.
Yeah.
And I think it just highlights how important it is to consider all angles before we make a major life decision based on someone else's advice,
right,
even if it sounds really exciting at first.
Right, because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our own choices.
That's very true. This has been so insightful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
So for our listeners out there who are trying to navigate this world of good advice and bad advice, what's the one thing they should keep in mind?
Trust your instincts.
Okay.
If something feels off about the advice, even if you can't put your finger on why, don't be afraid to question it.
Okay.
Seek additional opinions, do your own research, and most importantly, make decisions that align with your values and your goals.
Very, very wise words.
Thank you.
So the next time someone gives you advice, remember the CRAA test. Trust your gut. Make informed decisions.
Absolutely.
And who knows? Maybe your experience will inspire a future deep dive.
Yeah, or at least a good story.
That's right. Thanks for joining us today.
That was fun.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.
See ya.
Bye.